Hey everybody, it's Bill Carter. I'm coming to you solo today. Our friend Robin is taking some much deserved time off, but I wanted to make sure that I connect with you and talk a little bit about the latest that's going on within cybersecurity. And I think today I'm going to take a little bit of a focus that initially is going to sound like it's US centric, but I think it's something that we all need to talk about, something we all need to consider from a cybersecurity standpoint worldwide. What I wanted to talk a little bit about today is House Resolution 2670. So, HR 2670, this is a kind of a nomenclature system here in the United States for governmental documents coming out of our House of Representatives here in the US. But HR 2670 is the National Defense Authorization Act. Now, what this act does, and this particular act is literally sitting on the president's desk, the president of the United States for final signature. It's already passed all of its votes. But this is the National Defense Authorization Act that authorizes both appropriations as well as policies for multiple programs. Think Department of Defense programs, military construction, national security programs for the Department of Energy. It even covers information around the Defense Nuclear Safety Board as well as the Naval Petroleum Reserve. So this is a pretty significant act that is looking to authorize appropriations and policies, not necessarily spending. But the reason I want to talk about this today is there is a section in it that discusses the need for security in UAS. UAS. Now, what actually is UAS? UAS actually stands for Unmanned Aircraft Systems. Now, when we talk about unmanned aircraft systems, we might be thinking something very specifically military, but this actually comes into the civilian world with what we often refer to as drones. Now, this has become such a massive hobby. And I think it's produced some amazing content. I know that drones are often used for photography, to good effect, but even used in some business applications, things like real estate, surveying properties, things to this effect. But very interestingly, it talks again in this House resolution around the need for security in UAS and actually setting forth some policies. Where I think this gets more interesting is that on 17th of January this year, both the CISA and FBI, and for those who may not be familiar in cybersecurity, of course, they probably know what the FBI is, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. But CISA is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency here in the US. On January 17th, they released a joint publication. And in this joint publication, they issued a warning about the potential risks to critical infrastructure that are posed by those drones, those UASs that are manufactured, listen close to this, manufactured by organizations that are headquartered in the People's Republic of China. Now, from a US perspective, and again, it's the US perspective, the People's Republic of China poses what CISA considers to be a significant, persistent threat to cybersecurity, not only in the United States but potentially throughout the world. Again, I'm only kind of sharing what the opinion is of CISA. But here's their concern. Probably one of the largest manufacturers of drone technology that's available for civilian purposes. That company is actually headquartered in China. Now, the guidance issued indicates that the concern is that there are legal measures that are held by the People's Republic of China that would allow the government to request private information from those companies that are headquartered in the PRC. So, when this guidance actually came out, this manufacturer actually released their sort of response to it, saying, that they put a number of security measures in place and they outlined those to ensure that data that is collected by their drones is maintained in privacy. And this is the thing to keep in mind. And if you're a drone hobbyist, you do need to think in these terms. Drones are essentially information and communication technology devices, right? By their very nature, whether they are specifically recording that payload or they are carrying devices that record that payload, the bottom line is there's information that is being generated and stored by these devices, and those devices are obviously communication devices, even as simply as the communications over the radio that allow them to be controlled via remote control. So they really are. They're information and communication technology devices. So the concern is that though that information may be protected by certain technological privacy measures, the manufacturers of these devices could be compelled by law to release that information. And the concerns that are brought about by CISA and the FBI is that feeds into what they refer to as a military civil fusion strategy. All right, let's unpack that a little bit, right? So it is that fusion of data that may be collected by the average individual that could be applied toward military usage. So we certainly understand some of the concerns from a civil perspective that private citizens may have, or that businesses may have, or certain agencies may have about drones being in that airspace and recording things. So it could be cameras that are recording. So a drone can often carry a camera that is necessarily collecting visual information that, satellite technology may or may not be able to record just because of the scope, although that's something that could be debated very heavily too. But collecting that information is potentially a concern. And that's why CISA and the FBI issued that memo. When I actually think of it from the perspective of cybersecurity, we know that drones can potentially be a tool. It could be a TTP, right? That is used for some of those activities that threat actors may want to carry out. Think in terms of, when we think about drones carrying cameras, why can't a drone carry, say, a Raspberry Pi? And that Raspberry Pi be flown close enough into a business or an organization where it can begin to maybe scan the network to look for vulnerabilities. And this is a big one because organizations, when they, particularly brick and mortar organizations, right, that build, whether it's a warehouse or it's manufacturing or it's their corporate office, a lot of times not enough due diligence is put into their Wi-Fi footprint. So very often we know that you can get within proximity of a building per se, and begin to look at its network and begin to potentially start that initial access activity into that Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi is just radio signals, and a drone could certainly get within a radio signal if it is not well controlled. So we do need to necessarily be concerned about, drones, whether it's in our homes or within our businesses, simply because they can carry devices that are able to begin to try to get that access. So I think it's very, very important from the perspective of securing your organization. If you're not able to control those radio waves in an optimal manner, and we can certainly get into other things that drones can do, but particularly when you're looking at your network edge, We need to be able to control that. If not just by limiting the radio signals, we have to have an edge that is able to identify that we have devices that are doing things that they simply should not be doing. They're unrecognized devices that are becoming a part of it. So really having that robust security strategy around identifying when you've got unauthorized devices that may be trying to access or join the network, or looking at the behaviors on your edge and what's taking place. It could be, probing or vulnerability scanning. That's going to be crucial. So it really makes sense to look at drones from a cybersecurity perspective, removing even the geopolitical aspects of it. Look at drones from a cybersecurity perspective, both in your business life as well as in your personal life, and realize that there's an opportunity there to mitigate their use in potentially opening up vectors that threat actors can exploit. Well, I will go ahead and wrap up with that. I hope that this has been something that's proven enlightening to you. Again, if you're interested in looking at some of the documentation, it's freely available online. The first one I referred to was House Resolution 2670. A lot of times it's abbreviated HR 2670. You can see the information there. And then again, look for the CISA and FBI joint publication that was published on 17th of January, 2024. That's all for now. Great talking to you today. And as always, stay safe out there.